We'll wait for 1 more minute before we start. And till the time other people join, if you have any doubts or questions, do let me know. So this session will be a mix of multiple topics in Excel. We'll go through our case study in little more detail, and we'll cover a variety of miscellaneous functions and features in Excel. Okay. I hope my screen is visible now. Okay. Any doubts from the previous session? If not, we can start. Let me see who all haven't joined. Okay, and what about videos? Moin, Rishabh, Rohan, Ansh, Gaurav. This batch has a good percent of people who turn on videos. Usually it isn't this high. Thank you. All right. So since most people have joined, we'll start off where we left. Before we took the break, we were able to get this first name of the city. What if we want the second name? What do we want to extract the second name? What can we do using functions? I hope I'm audible.
We'll be using write.
Yes. So we will say write text and number of characters. So for Delhi, we will need 5. For Mumbai, we will need MUMBI 6. For Noida, we will again need 5. But of course, we can't use this. We need to change 5 and create it to be more dynamic. So any idea what we can do here? Someone had given the right hint when we were discussing last time.
I can find for the space again.
Find for the space and then?
Yeah, the position will give the number of letters that are there.
Okay, so first we will do find the space because that is the defining or distinguishing factor, correct? So we will find the space and again C10. Okay.
We'll have to add 1 word.
We'll have to add 1.
Yeah, because it's
okay. So it worked for Delhi, but what about
Noida? Okay.
What if this had been something else? What if it had been new? So if you see, there is an extra space, right? It will be more pronounced if I do this. So there is some issue with whatever we have done, right? So because we are using write, when we are doing whatever, find the space here, find works from the left. Whatever space position it will find, right? It will start counting from the left. So whenever in this case, it finds the space and adds 1. So 4 plus 5, 4 plus 1, 5. So it will pull the last or the rightmost 5 characters. That is what is happening here, correct? So this is not the ideal scenario. Because we are using find with write, we need to create a logic which will take data from the right as well, correct? Or the position will have to be calculated from the right. So what we can do is find will have to be used for sure. But we need to see, if you look at this length, Delhi ka total length is 9, correct? What we need to find is the last 5 characters that will pull Delhi, correct? Now, if we do find of the space. So it will take the last four because space is the fourth character here. That is what happened here in this case, right? Now, what if I want to switch? Okay, the find option should also be from the right side because find will give you position from the left. If I want to switch it, what is the option left? Do an adjustment length of the string minus find. And why did I have to do this? Because find starts to count from the left, but we need to calculate or we need to extract the characters from the right. So what it does, length minus find, what it does, total length is 9. What will find give me? Find this in C10. It will give me, oh, sorry, find space. It will give me 4, correct? So I got this entire length as 9. I got the position of this space as 4. I want these values, these last values. What will I do? Simple, 9 minus. So using right, I will be able to get the last 5 characters. And if you want to check for others, it will hold true. Look at Greater Noida. Greater Noida, the overall length is 13. Find will give me position number 8. If I do 13 minus 8, I will get the last right 5 characters. Okay. So this is how we will extract the second character. Is this clear? Do try this out on your own. It is one thing looking at someone else creating the logic, and it is completely different when you are trying out on your own. So my strong recommendation is whatever we are discussing today, whatever hands-on I am doing, please try out on your own once. Okay. Clear, everyone? Deepika?
Is there a way
Yes.
by which we can actually work a find from the right side? Because if there were be 3 characters or 3 words here, then again this logic wouldn't work. So if there is a way
Yes.
that from that find can actually search from the right, then we can do it for any number of words.
Yes, we can do it for any number of words, but no direct function exists like that. There are slightly more complex functions we can discuss when we talk about those other slightly complex functions.
Okay.
Okay. So
Yeah.
a lot of in the first milestone, not in the milestone, there are some practice questions which you will get as part of the first session follow-up, and those try to solve because you will have a discussion with your mentor sometime next week, I think. Right? So do try out all of those problem statements on your own. It will be a combination of these multiple functions which we have discussed so far. Right? It is just how do you use them. Okay? Clear? Any questions so far? Else we can proceed. Okay. Now all of this I hope is clear to everyone. There are other functions as well, and I have added a list of some more important functions. We have already discussed most of these. Sum, average, I don't need to explain. Min, max, count, round, if, and all of these are very simple. Concatenate is something we discussed. Made, length, find, search, substitute, replace, all of these. Mean, median, mode also we will discuss. Okay, right. Now coming to another feature of Excel, which someone had given a hint to, is text to columns. Right, this is a very interesting feature which you can use across multiple use cases. So for example, you have a list of strings with a delimiter like hyphen here, and you want to split the contents into multiple cells. So how can you do that? One way is data text to columns, and you guys can also try out if you want. So based on my selected data, it will create a preview. So we are saying that choose the type of file which best describes your data. It is delimited, means characters such as commas or tabs are in separate fields, right? So we want to split the individual column into multiple values using delimited. So this is the preview. We will do next. And because this is by default, it selects tab, semicolon, comma, space. It is not added by default. So we will add this, right? If you see the preview, it is showing 2 different cells now. Correct. Now we do next, and we just add the destination. Destination is C3, and we will finish. Right. So as soon as I click on finish, it shows the split values of the individual cells. Right. So this can come in handy. You can think about splitting your text through semicolon or comma or space or tab and so on. Okay. So had this been something like this, the hyphen or a straight bar. So now if you have to split, go to data, text to columns, delimited, other, H3, right? So this has also been split. So based on your use case, you can make use of this feature, right? So without using a formula, essentially. Okay. So like in the previous one, when we were doing it, right? New Delhi, Mumbai, all this, you can also split it by using a text to column function. But because this is more of a manual thing, I didn't start with it, right? Next, and I can give the destination as well, right? But again, manual thing, so it is important to understand whatever logic is being created at the backend. So for Excel, whatever functions are available at the backend, there is a C++ logic which has been created. So all the backend of Excel is powered by C++. Right? So whatever functions we are using, whatever features we are using, eventually at the back end, it is firing C++ modules. So which will do the processing accordingly and will give you the results. Okay. I hope this is clear, everyone. Any questions? Tanish, Harsh, Dimple, Kavya, all good?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, all good.
Right. Okay. Now, yes, someone had alluded to this feature as well. There are two types of fills which we have in Excel. One is flash fill, and the second one is series fill. For example, we have something like this here. We have the full names of some athletes, Roger Federer, Nadal, Virat Kohli, and all. I have already split first name and last name like this. So the first value which I am expecting has already been added. I want to fill up the other values directly without making any effort, without using text to column, without using any formula whatsoever. How can I execute this? Simply by pressing Control E. Control and E. Okay. The same thing I can do here. Control E. So control. And why did this happen? Because in my Excel, I have enabled flash fill. Right. So if you go to File, there's an option More, Options. You will get a pop-up, Advanced. This option you can tick, automatically flash fill. Okay. So if you press this, you will be able to flash fill your data, provided you have given the first output. Okay. So it understands that if your input data is in this format, you require a format like this. Okay. So you don't need to spend any time in understanding how this logic was done or what formula you need to create and so on. You can just enable this. It can save you a lot of time. Okay. So this is the path I have shared here. I'll share this overall file with you as well, so you can have a look. Okay. Cool. The other thing is series fill. Series fill, I think most of us already know. If there is an incomplete series already created, one can just drag these functions, right? So day of the week, month of the year, normal serial numbers, these can all be extended. Right? And I think we have already been using all of this, so no need to explain this further. Okay. Okay. Now, see, in Excel, there would be some other features before which you need to understand a little more background about how data is represented. So, for example, if we talk about mean, median, and mode, I hope everyone understands what is mean, what is median, what is mode. We don't need to go into those details, right? So, in between, I'll be also sharing some concepts which are used in the industry. Okay. So, in addition to Excel knowledge, you will also get some flavor of how metrics are reported usually, what are the pitfalls and what is the correct way to report metrics, right? Because eventually we need to understand those aspects as well, right? right? So I'll copy. So my strong recommendation is whatever we are discussing today, whatever hands-on I am doing, please try out on your own once. Okay? Clear,
Right.
everyone? Deepika?
Is there a way
Yes.
by which we can actually work or find from the right side? Because if there were be three characters or three words here, then again this logic wouldn't work. So if there is a way
Yes.
that from that find can actually search from the right, then we can do it for any number of words.
Yes, we can do it for any number of words, but no direct function exists like that. There are slightly more complex functions we can discuss when we talk about those other uh, slightly complex functions.
Okay.
Okay. So
Yeah.
a lot of in the first milestone, not in the milestone, there are some practice questions which you will get as part of the first session follow up, and those try to solve because you will have a discussion with your mentor sometime next week, I think. Right. So do try out all of those problem statements on your own. It will be a combination of these multiple functions which we have discussed so far. Right. It is just how do you use them. Okay. Clear? Any questions so far? Else we can proceed. Okay. Now all of this I hope is clear to everyone. There are other functions as well, and I have added a list of some more important functions. We have already discussed most of these. Sum, average, I don't need to explain. Min, max, count, round, if, and all of these are very simple. Concatenate is something we discussed. Made, length, find, search, substitute, replace, all of these. Mean, median, mode also we will discuss. Okay. Right. Now, coming to another feature of Excel, which someone had given a hint to, is text to columns. Right. This is a very interesting feature which you can use across multiple use cases. So, for example, you have a list of strings with a delimiter like hyphen here, and you want to split the contents into multiple cells. So, how can you do that? One way is data text to columns, and you guys can also try out if you want. So based on my selected data, it will create a preview. So we are saying that choose the type of file which best describes your data. It is delimited, means characters such as commas or tabs are in separate fields, right? So we want to split the individual column into multiple values using delimited. So this is the preview. We will do next. And because this is by default, it selects tab, semicolon, comma, space. It is not added by default. So we will add this, right? If you see the preview, it is showing two different cells now, correct? Now we do next and we just add the destination. Destination is C3 and we will finish, right? So as soon as I click on finish, it shows the split values of the individual cells, right? So this can come in handy. You can think about splitting your text through semicolon or comma or space or tab and so on. Okay. So had this been something like this, the hyphen or the straight bar. So now if you have to split, go to data, text to columns, delimited, other, H3, right? So this has also been split. So based on your use case, you can make use of this feature, right? So without using a formula, essentially. Okay. So like in the previous one, when we were doing it, right? New Delhi, Mumbai, all this, you can also split it by using a text to column function. But because this is more of a manual thing, I didn't start with it, right? Next, and I can give the destination as well, right? But again, manual thing. So it is important to understand whatever logic is being created at the backend. So for Excel, whatever functions are available at the back end, there is a C++ logic which has been created. So all the back end of Excel is powered by C++. Right? So whatever functions we are using, whatever features we are using, eventually at the back end, it is firing C++ modules. So which will do the processing accordingly and will give you the results. Okay. I hope this is clear, everyone. Any questions? Tanish, Harsh, Dimple, Kavya, all good?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, all good.
Right. Okay. Now, yes, someone had alluded to this feature as well. There are two types of fills which we have in Excel. One is flash fill, and the second one is series fill. For example, we have something like this here. We have the full names of some athletes: Roger Federer, Nadal, Virat Kohli, and all. I have already split first name and last name like this. So the first value which I am expecting has already been added. I want to fill up the other values directly without making any effort, without using text to column, without using any formula whatsoever. How can I execute this? Simply by pressing Control E. Control and E. Okay. The same thing I can do here. Control E. So Control. And why did this happen? Because in my Excel, I have enabled flash fill. Right. So if you go to File, there's an option More, Options, you will get a pop-up, Advanced. This option you can tick, automatically flash fill. Okay. So if you press this, you will be able to flash fill your data, provided you have given the first output. Okay. So it understands that if your input data is in this format, you require a format like this. Okay. So you don't need to spend any time in understanding how this logic was done or what formula you need to create and so on. You can just enable this. It can save you a lot of time. Okay. So this is the path I have shared here. I will share this overall file with you as well, so you can have a look. Okay. Cool. The other thing is series fill. Series fill, I think most of us already know. If there is an incomplete series already created, one can just drag these functions, right? So day of the week, month of the year, normal serial numbers, these can all be extended, right? And I think we have already been using all of this, so no need to explain this further. Okay. Okay. Now, see, in Excel, there would be some other features before which you need to understand a little more background about how data is represented. So, for example, if we talk about mean, median, and mode, I hope everyone understands what is mean, what is median, what is mode. We don't need to go into those details, right? So, in between, I'll be also sharing some concepts which are used in the industry. Okay. So, in addition to Excel knowledge, you will also get some flavor of how metrics are reported usually, what are the pitfalls, and what is the correct way to report metrics, right? Because eventually we need to understand those aspects as well, right? So coming to an example which is very commonly used in e-commerce industry, let us say this is a comparison of prices between two platforms, Flipkart and Amazon. We have different type of products. The same product has been compared in price between Flipkart and Amazon, right? So we have 7 products, and for individual product, we have the pricing difference between the two, right? So there is something called as pricing index. So this is a metric which companies track to check whether they are better priced than the competitors or not. Okay. It is a little more complex, so we might not cover the exact definition, but we'll cover the concept of how mean, median, mode can be different here. Like, so if you see, product 1 is priced differently on both, so we have 7 products. Now, if we were to measure that which company is better in pricing at an overall level, what do? One way is to calculate the mean of all these values, right? So we calculated the mean for both, for Flipkart and Amazon. We found 174, 181. So can we say Flipkart is cheaper than Amazon?
Yes.
Okay, that is one answer.
No.
Not always.
Yes. Why? There is one outlier here, P6. 20 as the price of the product which is selling here versus 140 in Amazon. So this is sort of an outlier price which is impacting the overall metric of 174, right? If you look at individual products, product P1, it is more expensive in Flipkart. P2, more expensive, more expensive. All products except for P6 are more expensive in Flipkart. Because of this one individual product, this has been, the overall metric has been skewed, correct? So why would this 20 number come up? There can be multiple factors. One can be, tell me, if I say 20 is the actual price which was seen by the customers on the platform, what can be the reasons of this product selling at such a low price on Flipkart only and not Amazon? Glitch, okay. That is one.
Must not be the original copy of the product.
Okay, original copy. Not an original then. Yes, a copy of the product. Okay. What else?
Any ongoing discount on that particular product.
Okay, discount. But this is not a normal discount. This is a very, very steep discount, right?
It's more
So,
like a product at a discounted rate due to a certain cart value.
okay, that is also possible. Fair. So all the answers are broadly correct. One reason can be that there is some technical error because of which the price became very low. So I remember in Flipkart, there was a discount of 5% which was supposed to be applied on a cricket bat. By mistake, the team did it 1 minus discount. So instead of 5% discount, the bat started selling at 95% discount. Right? So that was, and because the product is priced at such a low value, a lot of units got sold. Then the company had to cancel all those orders. So pricing error or technical glitch is one. The second is it can be a part of a bigger basket offer wherein we give a big discount that you buy 10 products or you buy products worth 10,000, you will get a big discount on the 11th one. That is second. What else? And a very important factor. If it is a perishable product and it is nearing its expiry date, so to avoid wastage of that product, companies sell it at a very steep discount. It is called clearance sale, right? So you need to clear out your stock to prevent it from getting expired, right? That is one. The second is the inventory buildup has been very high. So if there is a warehouse, there is only limited number of products which can be stored. So if the inventory buildup is very high, the seller can think of liquidating, right? So it is sort of a flash sale of sorts. That okay, these products are out of style or they are seasonal products, jinka demand is not there anymore. So the seller can think of selling these in bulk at a very low, right? So this was some business context on this. Clear, everyone? Right. Now, because of this very low price, this outlier price, our mean is shifting incorrectly, and this metric is showing an incorrect price index, right? So what would be the right way to show this? Mean is not the correct way to represent.
Can
Removing
we
the
remove the outlier?
That is one way we can remove the outlier. But which metric will automatically take care of outliers?
Median.
Median.
Exactly. So instead of using mean, we will be using median. So median will have the correct representation here, right? 150 versus 140. And I agree that mean median is to be calculated when the number of individual data points are high, but this is just a representation. Okay. So median will be the correct way to represent. And this is one, I would say, hack, which is used by a lot of colleges to show their placements. Average CTC is 20 lakhs, right? If there are a few international placements with high value, they can skew your mean values, right? So the correct way, if you are even evaluating which college to go to, is median CTC, right? Okay. Now, till the current view, we have only been focused on individual price and not the units, right? Currently, we don't have data about how many units did this sell. So if I had that, so now for every product, we had units sold on that platform, right? So another metric which companies track very frequently is called weighted price. What is weighted price? Total revenue generated by that company divided by total number of units sold. Right? So how do you calculate? How did we get to 43? It is nothing but calculating the revenue first, price into units, plus this price into units, and so on. Right? What is the better way to do that calculation? Which function?
Some product.
Sum product. Very
Some
simple.
product.
Yes. So if I were to get this, we will do sum product of B3 to B9 and C3 to C9 divided by total number of units. So this will give us the revenue. This will give us the total units sold. So this is the weighted price of all the products sold on platform 1, and this is for platform 2. Right? This is also called, what is the industry metric for weighted price? Anyone? It is called ASP, average selling price. Right? And you will find use of this metric in a lot of scenarios. What is the ASP of the product in the overall platform? Okay. Right. So because of this product, because this product is at a very low value, it sold 1,000 units. So the overall average selling price for Flipkart went down, and for Amazon, it is still there is no skewness here. So what people do in this scenario is ignore this P6 ka value, then calculate your average selling price. Okay. Clear? Mean, median, weighted average. Just a little more context on how metrics are created. Right? Okay. Right. Now coming back to our data set. If you see here, we had this coupon status equal to used, clicked, not used, etc. We had coupon code, we had GST, discount, all of these shipping charges. So we had the data till this point. Now we want to add a few more columns to understand this data better or to enable more analysis, right? So if you see, currently we had quantity, average price, shipping fee, GST, and coupon discount. These many individual metrics we had. Now the use case is to add a few more columns so that we are able to visualize these slightly better. So for example, there is one metric called final price. One second. Let's ignore this. Start from here. There is one metric called total price, which is number of units into average price. Okay. There is one metric which is adding shipping charge to my total price, right? Because shipping charge will be calculated on the overall order or the overall value, quantity into price. And then we have final price, which will include GST. Then we had the paid price. What is paid price? It adjusts for coupon usage. If the coupon is used, then your value of the overall product will go down by 10%. If it is any other value, it will remain the same. Okay. So these are some additional columns which we have added. Right. So all of these are simple, right? If you want to add, if you want to multiply quantity into average price, then we added shipping fee, then we added GST. Right? If you want to add shipping fee, it is just a simple addition. If you want to adjust it by GST, we'll multiply it by 1 plus this GST rate. I think this would be very simple. The last part is if the coupon used or coupon status is equal to used, only then the user will get this discount. Right? So if we want to adjust for this, what we will do, we can use a normal if-else statement. What we can say is, if my N2 value is equal to used, you reduce the value by this much. 1 minus, because this is an integer, we need to convert it into decimal. So if the value is used, you reduce the value by the discount percentage, otherwise keep the value as it is. Right? Fairly simple. Right? Normal if else ka usage. I hope everyone is clear on this. Okay. Now the other thing is, there is this quantity column. Based on these conditions, I want to create another flag here. Okay. This quantity bucket flag. So if the quantity is, one second, let me increase the size a little bit. If the quantity is less than 5, I will call it low. If the value is between 5 and 10, I'll call it medium. If it is greater than 10, I'll call it high. Okay. So I need to create this flag of quantity bucket based on column K, right? So how can I do that? I can use if else.
Nested ifs.
Nested if. So if you see here, what I said, if the value is greater than 10, call it high quantity. Okay. If not, check whether the value is greater than 5. If it is greater than 5, call it medium. Otherwise, call it low. So this is a nested if condition. In the else of the first if condition, we added another if condition. This is called nesting of if condition. Right? So on the basis of whatever conditions we have, greater than 10 called high quantity, greater than 5 call it medium, otherwise call it low. So we got this flag, right? And you can do some quality check. Okay, if the quantity is 10, what are we getting and all. So this is one way to do it. But nested if is very painful. Consider a scenario where instead of these three conditions, right? Instead of these three conditions, I had 5 conditions: very high, high, medium, low, very low, right? I will have to write so many nested ifs. One if under another if, another if, like inception of if conditions, right? So once you start doing nested if, it is very difficult to follow or to keep a track that I'm at which layer. Am I at the third nested if or fourth nested if or fifth nested if? And if you have a syntax error of even a single comma or a curly bracket, you will be in trouble, right? So what is the alternative? If you have to create a flag like this, there is another function called ifs, ifs. Okay, and I'll show you how it works. So if you see here, ifs, if the value is greater than 10, call it high, greater than 5, call it mid, less than equal to 5, call it low. You don't need to create any nesting within if conditions, right? Just give a list: greater than 10, this value; greater than 5, this value; less than 5, the third value, right? And if you have multiple more conditions to fulfill, you can create a condition like this: greater than 100, very high; greater than 10, high; greater than 5, mid; greater than 2, low; less than equal to 2, very low. See how simple it became, right? So this can be very handy when you are trying to create new flags. And I have seen a lot of data analysts struggling with nested if, not knowing the IFS condition. Okay. So please try to use this instead of nested if in your workings. Okay. When I was new, I had to create one nested if condition with 20 individual conditions. It took me more than an hour, right? But if you do it using ifs, it will hardly take you like 3-4 minutes. Okay. Right. And it was fairly late in my career. I was a little taken aback कि ये भी नहीं आता था, right? Okay. Now we have understood all of these. There is one more column which I had added here. I'll share this file with you, so have a look. In this AB to AE, I have added these multiple formulae to get to this value. In this column Z, I have just created one formula, which will take into consideration all of these. So have a look, try out on your own. How will you create it? It will be a decent practice. Okay. Great. I hope my screen is still visible. Right. Now coming to in this data, we need to now start some analysis. So we need to calculate the top 10 customers on the basis of the number of orders they had created, right? But we don't have to use a pivot table right now. Okay. So I want the top 10 customers on the basis of their orders, right? So how can we do this without using a pivot table? Of course, no. Yes, any thoughts?
By conditional formatting.
Conditional formatting. Okay.
Like by putting out the filters of greater than condition.
Okay. But remember, in your current data, customer ID can be repeated multiple times, correct? So directly using conditional formatting on top of this will not work.
So on
So
what
what can you
basis,
do?
like, are we trying to identify our top 10 customers? On the cart value,
Count of orders.
count of orders. Okay.
Yes, yes. Any thoughts? Gaurav? Prem? So there is one condition or one formula which you can use. It is called unique. Okay. So what will this formula do? It will calculate or it will deduplicate all of your customer IDs. So if you see, initially we had around 53,000 rows in customer ID, right? 53,000. We did a unique of all of these to get deduplicated list of all our customer IDs. So we get a count of 1469. So around 1500 unique customers who placed at least one order, right? Now we have the deduplicated list. What another function can we use to count the number of uh, units or orders? Let us say it is on the basis of units only for now, not orders, units, this quantity. So we can use sum if. How does it work? We will say sum if we will give the range that you need to match these values on column B. Column B has all these customer IDs, right? So match on column B and search for this value. Whenever you get a match, the sum range should be column K. What is column K? It has the quantity here, right? So three arguments. One is the range where you want to search, the value which you want to search, and whenever there is a match, what sum you want to generate. So using this, you will get the quantity for every customer ID, right? This is the use of sum if as a condition. Now, of course, if you are new, you can check 17, 18, 50 customer ID. You can filter it out here, right? For this customer ID, filter out and then check what is the sum of quantity. You will get the same number, right? Yeah. And here, what do you need to freeze? You need to freeze the range where you are looking for because you don't want it to change, right? And you also need to freeze the sum range because you don't want it to go outside of your data set, right? But you will not change this customer ID, whatever you are searching for. So please try out once. How will you use SUMIF as a function?
So can you explain this again?
So I'll create it here only. So SUMIF has three inputs. First is the range, as in, so I have this customer ID with me right now. Okay, I want to get the quantity. How many units did this customer ID purchase? So I will search this customer ID within my column B. Wherever I get a match, I will add quantity. Okay, that is what I want to do. Column B and column K. So getting back here, sum if, wait, who's making this? Range is B2. Let me, this is the range, right? And what is the criteria? Criteria is this value. And what is the sum range? K, column K. Control Shift and right. So this is the value I got. Can anyone please remove this? Harsh, whoever created this line. 1 second. Is my screen visible? I don't know. I'll be able to. Wait. Visible now?
No.
Nita has joined.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Okay. So I'll give you the. Very sorry, guys. I don't know why it isn't getting resolved in, right? So you guys were able to follow. Now we have this number. I need to drag this across. I need to drag this formula till the end, right? What will I do? I can do it like this directly, but what will happen? Starting here, this is okay, AQ3, but instead of B2, it started referring, or it started to initiate the range from B3, and same for here. So what will I have to do? I'll have to freeze these, right? So in some keyboards, it works on function F4. Function F4. Right? So it will freeze both these values, which is also fine. Function F4. Right? And now you can drag it till the end. Right? So this is the correct way. Now, if you want to do a quality check that whatever output you are getting here is correct or not, what you can also do is add up all these values. What is the sum? 238033. Yes. So this is the figure you have got right now. You can go to your raw data and just check. If you do the same thing here, are you getting the same number or not? 238033, which means whatever I have done here is correct. If I had not used this dollar, it is possible I would have gotten a much lesser value. Clear? Sum if as a function. Puneet? Okay. Now, moving ahead, there is another, if you want to do it for revenue as well, you will be using sum if again. For revenue, there is a different column. I think column T is where we are using to get the revenue. Somewhere in between, whatever. Okay. So revenue is also the same. But if I want to do something, before this, sorry, quantity, now I got at a customer ID level, I got the total quantity purchased. If now I want to calculate the top 10, what can I do? Simply, I can filter and sort it in descending order and then get the top 10 values. Another alternative is I can do conditional formatting, top bottom rules, top 10 items. Right? I can do conditional formatting as well. Top 10. Okay, sorry. Right? So the top 10 values will be highlighted. Right?
And what if I have to see only the top 10 number of customers data?
Yeah.
So will the
So you
filter
can filter you can do you can sort largest to smallest, or you can also do number filters. Here you can do top 10.
Okay.
So top 10, above average, and you can also add custom filters here. Custom filters will give you very a wide range of options, right? Quantity should be greater than this, equal to this, whatever. So you can try out all of these options here, right? So do try out. There are a lot of these customized options available. Okay. Deepika, clear?
Yes.
Oh, there are two Deepikas. Okay. Right. Now, if you were to do the same thing for revenue, you can largely similar customer ID level pay. You get the revenue, then sort it in descending order and so on. Right. The next is count if. If I want to get the product category wise total orders and then sort it in descending order, I can get the top 5 categories, top 3 categories. So if you see product category and I want to get orders, my order ID or my transaction ID, I cannot do a sum because these are IDs. If I do a sum of these, it will give a very huge number, which will not make any sense. So I will have to do count for transaction ID, right? So category level pay, if I want to count the orders, I will do count if. Again, count if has only 2 arguments. Whenever you are searching for range and what you want to match. So transaction ID is in column I, and we want to search for BE2, which is product category name. Again, we did a unique of product category. So we got the list and then we did orders, right? So total orders are 52,000. And if you want to get the order share, you can do something like this. this value divided by sum of all these, right? So you can get the order share. Clear? These are just ways to create summaries on top of your data. Clear? Okay. Now, what else did we have to discuss? Text to column is done. Okay, so we'll discuss in a little bit of a brief about conditional formatting. So if you want to do conditional formatting, you can select your column. There are a lot of options available. One more detailed discussion about conditional formatting we'll do in the next session. So right now, whatever the basics we have. So if you want to highlight the top cells or highlight cells on the basis of rules, you can do greater than. So if you say greater than 40, you can also select what type of highlighting do you want to do. So light red fill with dark red text. So whatever values are greater than 40 will be highlighted like this, right? You can also do less than, between, equal to, text that contains a specific value, right? Duplicate values ko also you can highlight, right? So duplicate values you want to highlight, you can click from here. The other is top and bottom rules. If you want top 10, top 10%, bottom 10, bottom 10%, above, below, average, all of these you can try out. There are so many options based on what all use case you can get. You can go through these, right? The other thing, and a lot of people also add these, are data bars. So if you see in this example, I have added a data bar. So 12, if the number is 12, the bar is up till here, this red bar. If the value is higher, 43, the bar is covering a bigger portion of your cell, right? 25 is in the middle, so it is covering half of the cell, right? So these fill options are also available for conditional formatting. Then there are color scales, and I think this is the most commonly used conditional formatting, that it colors your values based on the scale. If it is a high value, it will give a dark green color. If it is a low value, it will give a red color, and so on, right? You can also have more rules around it. So what all rules you want to get, you can add accordingly. Another thing is called icon set. What is icon set? These are directional values. So if the value is high, it will give a green arrow. If the value is in between, it will give a yellow arrow. If the value is low in that column, it will give a red bar. So you can try out these. I've added one icon set here, this one, this fourth one, right? So the higher values have a green conditional formatting icon set, the lower values have yellow and red, whatever, right? There is one more and more important type of conditional formatting wherein you can create your own rules, right? So manage rules, if you go, or if you go to new rule, so you can create your customized rule. And the most commonly, so if you see here, format all cells based on the values, format cells only that contain something, format only top or bottom ranked value. So you can give format values that rank in top 10, bottom 10, and so on, right? You can also format who are unique or duplicate. And the last one is use a formula to determine which cells to format. So we have some use cases which we'll discuss in the next session. Very customized views how you can create. For example, if you want to highlight the cells which have a tenure between 20 to 30 months, which have gender male, and which have average price greater than 10,000. So you can create a rule which will combine multiple columns and highlight accordingly. So this we will discuss in the next session. Okay. Okay. Now tell me, have you, Archana has a question. Do we use data bars in real working situations? I have not used conditional formatting so much, but if you want to highlight something out of a list of metrics which are important, so corporate scorecards sometimes have a lot of metrics, 20, 30, 40 metrics. If you want to highlight a few of them, that this metric is not functioning according to our expectations, you can use data bars as well. Okay, but I have used conditional formatting very sparingly so far. I prefer using a filter and creating a customized view rather than doing conditional formatting, but it can be important if you want to share some summarized data to some external party and you want them to focus on a certain few metric values, you can use conditional formatting. Okay. All right. Right. The next thing which you need to know, and I think most of you already know, is when you use filters, you can also do sorting. So sorting will be available directly if you have a filter. So you can sort smallest to largest, largest to smallest. You can also sort by color. But which some people might not know is there is something called as custom sort. So you can create levels. For example, first sort by gender based on the cell values and in descending or ascending order. Once gender ka sorting is done, add another level of location. So let us say first it will sort a female first, then male, and even within female section, it will sort by location. Then if there is a tie in location, it will sort by tenure months. So you can give this level, these levels of sorting based on your use cases, right? Let us say if you first want to sort by product category, then gender, then shipping charge or whatever, you can do that, right? And you can also delete whatever level you want, right? So a lot of people might not know this. So you can do this custom sorting. Clear? Right. Now, another thing, okay, David, I won't cover it here. We also had to discuss about outlier analysis, what I mentioned earlier in data cleaning, right? Whatever steps we had, the last step was outlier treatment and identification/removal. So we can discuss that. Let me share the file for it. So let me share this file as well with you, whatever we had been discussing so far, so that you are able to try out whatever we had discussed. Yes, so it might take a couple of minutes to get uploaded. Okay, I'm sharing it straight away so that you won't waste time in trying to get it this way. Okay. Right. Now we will be discussing about outliers. Yes. Okay. Right. So whenever we do any outlier analysis, first our job is to evaluate. Okay, so the file is still uploading for you. It might take one more minute, but okay, whenever you get it. Yes. So in outlier analysis, we have two methods based on skewness, right? So let us say we want in our data, it is the same data set which we have. We want to do an outlier analysis on shipping fees. I think one second. Yes, on this delivery charge. So we want to identify where the value of shipping charge is very high. Okay. So for an e-commerce company, it is important to understand where shipping charges are exceeding what the customer might be comfortable in paying, right? So before we start, can you tell me the reasons why shipping fee will be very high in some scenarios? Now, just from business perspective, scenarios where shipping fee
Because
can be very.
maybe the delivery, the time of delivery, like if they want a parcel, like a customer wants a parcel in a short span, so during that the delivery charges must be higher.
Okay, fair. That the type of delivery is express, right?
Yes,
That is a very fair point. Okay.
Due to weight and size of the product.
So if the weight is very high of the product or the volume is very high. Both, right? Because our shipments or our supply chains have to store whatever is being in transit. So if the volume is high or the weight is high, then you can expect higher shipping charges, right? Shabana has said location of the customer. So if the customer lives in a very remote area, right, or the location is hard to reach, then your shipping fee can be high. If the distance is high, correct. What else? There are some zones.
The type of mode, like is it going through like car,
Mhm.
like roadways or airways or yeah.
Okay, the type of travel associated with the shipment, yes. Fragile.
Packaging and handling, basically what kind of packaging we are doing, fragile, special, extra charges will be there.
Yes, so if whether the product is fragile or needs extra packaging, very correct. What else?
Depends
There
on
are some areas.
depends on the seller also.
Mhm.
Whether they are offering the free shipping or not. Basically, the product cost they are doing according to the shipping. They are charging separately.
Fair. It depends on the seller as well, whether it is a seller, whether the seller is initiating or facilitating the shipment or it is the platform itself. So Flipkart has multiple sellers which sell on the platform, but they manage the inventory, right? So whether the product is in the warehouse of the platform or it is it is dependent on the seller. That also takes care of the shipping difference. Okay, very good points. Fragile order quantity. So if there is a product which has a very high quantity, so 20 units are being sold in one go for the customer, because the weight and volume will by default be higher, so the shipping charges can be high. Okay, so I think you have covered majority of the points. There is one more nuance to it, that there are some pin codes which are marked as unsafe or difficult to reach or with a lot of potholes or traffic issues. So there, sometimes companies increase the shipping fees, okay, to manage for any loss or time wastage. Right? So these are all the conditions which can increase the shipping fee. So the company wants to know what are the outlier orders in our delivery charges. Right? Now there are two ways to understand or evaluate whether it is an outlier or not. One way is doing it with the standard deviation method. The second way is doing it based on the interquartile range method. Okay. Now, which method we will choose depends on the skewness of the data, right? So I am sure we all have heard about normal distribution. What is normal distribution? Most of our observations are close to the mean, and if you go to a distance from the mean, the number of observations continue to reduce, right? So as an example, look at this. This is our mean value. Most of the observations are centered here. As you go away from the mean value, the number of observations reduce. So beyond 2 standard deviation or beyond 3 standard deviation, we call these values outliers, right? I hope everyone is comfortable with normal distribution. Yes. This is the stats question anyway. Okay. So whether now standard distribution or normal distribution means if a graph is being created like this, it means that there is no skewness in our data, that most of our observations are close to the mean, right? So if my data is normally distributed, I will use standard deviation method. But if my data is skewed, example, if most of my observations are far away from the mean, towards the left side or far away from the mean on the right side, then I have skewness in my data. I cannot use standard deviation. I will have to use interquartile range method, right? Now, how do you calculate skewness? There is a very direct formula which you can use called skew, SKEW. If the value is greater than 2, it means that there is skewness in the data. You will use interquartile method. If skewness is less, you will use the normal distribution or standard deviation method. Okay, this I will written it somewhere here, right? Okay, now what are these methods? So first we'll go to the interquartile range, when our distribution is like this with a high skewness. Okay, how will we check this? Look at this. So First, we will calculate the first quantile by using quartile, comma 1. It means that we are calculating the 25th percentile essentially, right? So this is called Q1, first quartile, and Q3, which is the 75th percentile equivalent. It is called third quantile, right? So Q1 and Q3 we calculate. Then we calculate interquartile range, the difference between the two. In this case, it is 14, right? Once interquartile range is calculated, we calculate the upper bound and lower bound for this data, right? So upper bound ka formula is this, Q1 minus 1.5 times interquartile range. And this is all derived from stats. We don't need to go into why it is Q1 minus 1.5 times interquartile range, right? You can study about how quartile ranges are decided and upper and lower bounds are evaluated, okay? So -9 is the number we are getting in this case. 47 is the upper bound. Q3 plus 1.5 times interquartile range. So -9 shipping fee doesn't make sense. It cannot be negative, which we already discussed. So lower bound in this case is of no use. The only difference is upper bound. So whatever values are greater than 47, they would be outliers. Okay? Clear? This is through interquartile range. Had there been no skewness in our data, had it been normal distribution, we would have used standard deviation. And standard deviation is simpler. You calculate the mean, you calculate the standard deviation. Lower bound is mean minus 2 standard deviation. Upper bound is mean plus 2 standard deviation. Here we are getting 143, right? See, any value above 143 will be an outlier, right? So in this case, you can see, had we gone through standard deviation method, we would have kept a very high bound for outlier analysis. But because there was a skewness, actually, whatever value is greater than 47 is an outlier. So the company would want to evaluate why any shipping fee or delivery charge is being charged greater than 50, right? Greater than 47. It will be flagged and the company will evaluate that why is this such a high number? Is it because of the volume being higher? Or is it because of the area is very remote? Is it because the product is fragile, or whatever reasons we discussed, right? But had we taken this approach, let us say 80 as a value, and there is some problem which the seller would have done some ghapla there, and he's overcharging the customer by charging him 80 rupees. If we had used standard deviation as a method, we would not have flagged it, right? This high number is coming. Why? Because there is skewness in our data, right? Now, based on these numbers, 143, so ignore. Based on this number, 47, we will calculate that, okay, these values are greater than 47, so these are outliers. So what to do with outliers, right? You will be explicitly asked, like if you find outliers, you can ignore those values, right? In most cases, this happens, right? You will be already mentioned that in this use case, whenever there is an outlier, ignore those values. Yes, Ansh?
So you mentioned that the type of method which company chooses to evaluate, it depends on the skewness of the data. So how does the skewness of the data is evaluated? Like you mentioned that it depends on the mean, right? So can you just provide some light on it?
Skewness can be directly calculated using the skew function. So there are thresholds which companies set that if the skewness is greater than, let's say, 2, there is a positive or negative skewness there. So we will not use standard deviation. We will use IQR. So this is the function which I've added here, right? I'll highlight it better.
And how does that 2 is derived?
2 actually depends on the industry. It can vary based on their tolerance. Okay, but it doesn't, there is no hard and fast rule. 2 ही होना चाहिए, only then we will do it. It can vary between 2, 2.5, 3 based on the industry. I think for automotive industry, the skewness ka tolerance is lower. For, let's say, normal e-commerce, it can be higher. Okay. The way standard deviation can vary according to company, skewness can also be a little subjective, right? But it won't be 2 versus 100. That type of a difference won't be there, right? Okay. So once you identify, either you can ignore those values, those outlier values while evaluating, or you can impute those values. What does imputation mean? Whenever you have an outlier value, let us say 47 is the outlier upper bound. If the value is 150, let's say, you will replace the value of 150 by your upper bound, right? So if you have lesser number of data points for any analysis and you want to keep outlier values, you will not take the value of 150, you will only take the upper bound. But that is very rare, right? And that is for very specific use cases. Okay. So for your use case, whenever you are evaluating, in most of the scenarios, you will have to ignore the outliers. So ignoring outliers, what is your overall insight? Okay. Clear? Okay. Now tell me, how many of you have gone through your Excel milestone? Are you able to access it?
Yes.
Okay. So
Yes.
how many of you have seen what your milestone is so far? I wanted to discuss hypothesis testing. So I want to know if you have gone through the use case, or I can discuss a generic use case with you. So tell me, how many of you have gone through it? It's okay if you haven't. We can discuss some other generic use case as well. Okay, most of you haven't.
The Flipkart one or the Indigo test case?
Flipkart.
I've gone through it, not completely understood the
Okay.
expectation.
So that is not directly a part of your Excel, but a lot of people struggle while creating the hypothesis and just going about how do you evaluate it. So if you want, we can discuss a little bit about hypothesis testing as well. Okay. I have seen Excel may we teach all these formula and everything, but when you get to the use case, you need to create hypothesis. You need to get the data to back or invalidate that hypothesis. So a lot of people struggle at that time. So we can discuss hypothesis testing, how to go about it. Okay. So let me see if it is here or not. Right. Okay. Are you able to see this? Sheet 1?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So let us say there is a hypothesis or a problem statement that the revenue has dropped by 20% between January and February. So how do you perform an exploratory data analysis here? So, and your milestone will be similar. Whenever you are done with Excel, you will be given a use case, and the use case is Flipkart ka retention and CSAT is what you have been given, right? So you need to look at the data, perform all those hygiene checks, do outlier analysis, check for null values and so on, and then give results, right? So how do you structure your analysis that way? So for example, in this case, because most of you haven't gone through it, we will discuss this use case that revenue has dropped and you need to understand what has happened. So how will you create a hypothesis? How will you go about doing your exploratory analysis? 1 second, sorry. Give me 1 second. Yes, sorry. So how do you go about this analysis? So first, this is the structure you need to follow, right? First, you will mention what your hypothesis is, right? For example, if the revenue is dropping, what will be the first hypothesis? That there is a traffic drop, which is reducing to a revenue loss, right? That is a valid hypothesis to check first, right? So the hypothesis should be crisp and clear, right? I saw some of the submissions last time that this might be happening, that might be happening. No, the hypothesis creation should be crisp, right? So for example, traffic drop causing a drop in revenue, right? This is your hypothesis, and you will use the data, whatever you have been given, to prove or disprove this hypothesis. Okay. Now what will you check? Second step is you will check what all metrics can you get, right? So in this example, you will check the traffic by location, by channels, by categories, and then check whether traffic is actually dropping or not, right? So the hypothesis should be created in such a way that it can be proven or disproven by data, right? So if you are given a hypothesis like this or a use case like this, why is revenue dropping for Zomato? So you cannot say the hypothesis, you cannot mention maybe Swiggy has launched some new product. That data you won't have at all, right? So you can't put metrics like this or hypothesis like this. Hypothesis should be crisp. They should be created in such a way that you can validate them on the basis of data which you have by creating metrics, right?
So this
So-
hypothesis means that the number of people visiting Zomato has been dropped. That's why their revenue is decreasing, right?
So in this case, I have created a hypothesis like this. Okay, why is revenue dropping? The revenue can drop because the number of people coming are lower, right?
So is
But-
it necessary that hypothesis should be numerical, like in terms of numbers?
No, hypothesis means you don't need to add numbers. Numbers you will add only when you start giving metrics and sharing your observations, right?
Okay.
Metrics, hypothesis may just remember that whatever you write as a hypothesis should be explainable, or whatever hypothesis you create, you can either prove it or disprove it. But it should be data backed, that there is some metric which is making you say that the hypothesis is true or hypothesis is false, right? If you don't have that data in your schema, you can't create a metric on some other data. Like for example, you have transactions ka data for Zomato. You can't say maybe Swiggy has launched some new product. That data you won't have, right? Clear, Ansh?
So we'll
Yes, sir.
have to provide hypothesis, just a single hypothesis, or would there be like required to give two or more?
Yes, yes.
Or
Ideally, based on whatever use case you have been given, I think 4 or 5 hypotheses are enough. But if you feel that there can be other dimensions you can also check, you can add more.
okay, so right now, if we say the assignment or the case study we are given, would we be expected to share one like more than one hypothesis, or at least
More
one?
than- the use case is such that it will warrant more than 3 or 4 hypotheses for sure,
Okay.
because there are multiple dimensions you can check, right? So hypothesis में क्या होता है कि if one hypothesis is clearly giving you the answer, you can stop then and there, right? But if there is still some subjectivity to it, you should be creating more hypotheses to test whether it is false or true, right?
Right, and the same expectation would be for the final, maybe the project.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So the second step would be what all metrics will you check, right? So location wise, traffic, conversion, whatever is relevant to that hypothesis. Third step will be what are your observations. So here you will add the charts, some graphs, some pie charts, some trends to show whatever is your observation from the data you are pulling out. Okay. Now, based on that data, you will give a verdict whether the hypothesis is true or false. So in this case, if the observation is that the traffic has actually reduced by 8%, then you can say that the traffic drop is leading to revenue drop. So this will be the verdict section, right? The next section would be next steps and recommendations. It is the same thing actually. So next steps can be that this hypothesis is true. Now we will look for conversion, whether conversion is also reducing or not, right? And you can also give some recommendations. So for example, if you see in this case, overall traffic has dropped by 8%. If there is a specific channel like social media to bring in traffic, that has dropped. So your recommendation can be that the social media team should either create better campaigns or they should put more money in campaigns, right? So you can give some business recommendations as well. What is the objective of a data analyst or a business analyst? To analyze data and give insights and give recommendations, right? So this is also a very important part. based on whatever hypothesis, whatever data you got, what are you recommending to the business teams to do? Or what are you giving us as insights? Okay, this is a problem. You need to address this by doing XYZ action. Okay. So this is one structure you can follow. So next time when we meet, do go through your milestone so that we'll be able to cover some specific use cases. Right? That what hypothesis can be built here, what data can you check here, right? At least go through it once, even if you don't create any charts or create any hypothesis. We'll try to discuss that what all factors can be impacting your CSAT score. Okay, because if we discuss only Excel concepts and you are faced with that use case, you will know what charts and all you can create, but what will you do out of all that data? How will you structure it? How will you make it consumable by non-analytics people is more important, right? Okay. Now, this is one hypothesis which we created. Another hypothesis here can be conversion drop is causing a drop in revenue. So now you will check metrics related to conversion as a metric, right? Then you will check, you will break it down by multiple dimensions. So for example, here for traffic, what all dimensions can you check? Location-wise traffic, or this is something else actually. You can check channels, location, category-wise traffic, and then you can evaluate whether the drop is happening in some specific channel. Is it across? It is happening only for a particular category? Is it happening only for a particular location? And so on. Okay. Right. The other hypothesis can be that traffic is also not dropping, conversion is also not dropping. What is revenue a function of? Revenue is a function of units into average selling price. Correct? So either the units are dropping or selling price is dropping, because of which revenue has dropped. Correct? So if you have this data, you can also create a hypothesis like this, that the selling price of a lot of products has reduced, which is causing a drop in overall revenue. Right? So when you look at your data set, check what the individual columns mean, then try to add some business sense to it. Right? Your use case is that if customers are calling on customer care, after that discussion, the customer is asked for feedback. What is your rating of the conversation? They give the rating. On the basis of that rating, we calculate CSAT. CSAT is customer satisfaction score. Right? So if that becomes the metric, what is the average CSAT score? So what factors can cause the metric to increase or decrease? Okay. Right. So we have some time left. If you want, we can discuss a little bit about lookup functions, or we can discuss a little bit about some formula creation if you want. Otherwise, or if you feel that we've already discussed a lot of things, we can break for today and meet next week. Do let me know what you think.
So regarding the Flipkart case study, the CSAT score you mentioned, right? There, many of the columns in the CSAT score are empty, which I observed. So right now we were discussing that depending upon rating and duration of the call, we can the CSAT score is decided. Do we have to we have to fill in that? We have to do the calculation and fill the column.
Very, very good question. Others, what are your thoughts? This is a very important question for you for the milestone. The problem statement is, if you have 30,000 rows in your data set, around 15,000 are empty. 15,000 rows are empty. So what do you do with those empty values? Right? That is the question, right, Deepika?
Yes, sir. Basically, like the CSAT score is very important in that case study, and many of the columns in it are empty.
Yes.
I had that doubt as soon as I explored the data. Yeah. But since the topic came, like we need to calculate the CSAT score with the other two dimensions. Can you explain in detail how?
Yeah. Yes. Others, what are your thoughts on this? In your case study, if you got 30,000 rows, 15,000 are empty. What do you do with that 15,000 empty rows? Do you calculate it separately, or do you ignore those values? Or is there a data problem with your data set?
if the score from the customer itself is empty, then we might have to skip it because it is the most important metric that needs to be calculated.
Yes, you are right. So think about how CSAT is ingested, or how do we get this data? 100 people call customer care. Out of those, let us say 80 people are able to 80 people continue till the end. They don't drop off, right? People who complete their conversation with the customer care executive, they are asked for the CSAT, right? And how is it shared? Either they are asked on the call itself, what would you like to rate? Give a rating between 1 to 5, or they are sent a survey over mail or SMS. They can put in the values there, or they are given an option on the app. The app may you go to your whatever customer feedback and give the rating there. Out of those 80 people, the normal rate of receiving a survey result is only 30%. Right? And that happens in real life too. If you're calling customer care, how many times do you actually give a rating? Right? So not full responses are gotten by the company. So whenever you are finding a null value here, it means the customer completed the conversation with customer care executives, but they did not give any feedback. So you need to ignore all the null values. Completely ignore. Okay. Those values can be used to perform some other analysis, that of the total people who came, what is their demographics, what is their age, gender, whatever. But while evaluating CSAT, you have to remove everything else. All the null values you have to remove, and you cannot create another score there, like you are hinting to, na, Deepika?
Yeah,
You can't combine multiple columns and give a rating on your own. That will be interfering with the raw data which you got.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So because your entire analysis and hypothesis rests with calculating CSAT, if it is not there, you can't do anything about it. You just need to understand that why it is null in the first place, but you can create a metric out of it. In how many responses or in how many entries did you get a CSAT rating in the first place? If it is 30%, if it is 40%, the analysis of that number is a different use case. Why don't we get 100% rate of response in our CSAT scores? Right? That is something which the company can think about parallelly.
Yes.
They can ask maybe in between, in beech mein bata do kya hai, but that won't solve any purpose, right? Or they can call the customer 10 times. They give feedback, but that will irritate the customer more.
Right.
So there are projects in companies which deal with this, that how do you increase the response rate? Right? But whenever you are getting a null value, ignore everything. Okay.
Clear. Yeah.
Cool. Any other thoughts? I think we can break for today. We have discussed a lot of things, a lot of tangential things we have discussed today. Let me know what you think.
I just have one more query. Like Deepika asked about like empty rows. So there is one more scenario where we have to calibrate and insert, or what we say, impute the values. In our scenario, what could be that metric, or what could be that column where we can input these scenario? Like we have CSAT values. We'll be ignoring all the null values, all the null rows, but then those rows have some column where there is no value. So what can, like for gender, we can leave it as it is, but we can assume for maybe some location or that kind of metric can come in handy. Or where do we use that imputation?
See, in this use case, I don't think you can do it. There is no sense on imputing anything for now. I remember one use case when I was in Flipkart, when to impute. It is a long-winded question or long-winded answer. So before that, I would like to launch the poll so that people don't drop off till the time I explain. Okay, so please give in your feedback, and we'll meet again next week. 1 second, Vaishali has a question. Yes, so Vaishali, to your question, there will be a mentor session where you can discuss all of these. So whatever questions you have and whatever doubts you encounter while solving, you can discuss there. Okay, so I think Akash or Mohak, some mentor would have been assigned, or Rishabh, some mentor would have been assigned to you, so you can ask those questions there. Okay, but if in case you are not able to get your queries answered, we can start with some specific questions in the next session as well. Okay. If multiple people are facing the same problem, we can start off with those questions. Okay. Right. And in the next session, we will cover lookup functions, VLOOKUP, XLOOKUP, HLOOKUP, index match, conditional formatting details, and some other more complex functions. So we will discuss them. Yes, coming back to your imputation question. So there was a use case where we had transactions data and we were trying to create a benchmark price for products. Okay. So let us say there are 100 products on the platform, only 70 or 80 got sold. And out of those 70, 80, a few products did not have enough unit selling, right? They sold only on 2-3 days in a month, right? So the way it was set up was that we will calculate the average prices for products which sold for at least 5 days in the month, right? So if we took those products, the number of products which we were considering, they were reducing significantly, right? So to calculate the average prices, you need a fixed number of data points, right? So we also included days when they were not sold, right? So this was one sort of an imputation which we had done to get the average price. In short.
Got it. Yeah.
Right.
And
So
and like you said, this is one of the case you got. Like, is it a generalized scenario in most of the requirements that come for a data analyst, or usually it is just cleaning the data and getting out the metric?
Yeah, this is a very nuanced view which will come in very rarely, but mostly it is cleaning data, creating dashboards, and identifying trends, or if there is any major drop in metrics and so on. So
yeah, okay.
So for data analyst, if you are in the data analytics field, especially as a DA, so DA's work involves more dashboard creation, enabling that the data is flowing correctly. For a business analyst, the priorities change. It is driving more business decisions with product and category teams based on whatever dashboards have been created or whatever ad hoc analysis has been created, right? So that is the difference between DA and BA, right?
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. So thank you everyone for joining.
So one question is there. So there are lots of tasks in our dashboard, and all those have due date of 22nd tomorrow. So we have to complete all those materials till tomorrow.
What all is there, Mohit?
It's like week 1, week 2, data preparation using Excel. Yeah, understanding.
For Excel?
Yeah, for Excel.
For Excel, it is given 22 Feb coming up. Maybe it's wrong. Maybe.
Yeah, I think it shouldn't be, because today is the first day you are doing Excel. According to me, it should be 1 week later. So I think you can ask Harshit or Jitendra that the date is too recent. I don't think it will be tomorrow, to be honest, because there is no time otherwise.
Also in this Flipkart case assignment, that also has a 6th Feb date mentioned at the bottom. Maybe it got copied off from the previous assignment.
Yes. You can highlight these points in whatever channel you are in to Harshit or to Jitendra that these dates are not updated. I think 6th Feb was for the previous batch.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Basically, the first milestone we have to submit till 13th March. So I think all these topics will be covered till that we are completing the first milestone, right?
Yes. So
because there are plenty of topics, so I think it will take time to cover till March, 13 March. So that's what I was thinking.
Yes. So the last session of Excel you will have on 7th March, right?
Okay.
So from then to 13th March, 14th March, you still have time. So just double check with Jitendra, Harshit. I think there has been some change that Harshit switching to responsibility switching from Harshit to Jitendra and so on. So there might be some gap there, but to clarify from them that what are the revised timelines for our submissions. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. If no other doubts, we can conclude today's session.
And sorry, would we be getting the sample that we discussed today in these Excels?
I shared that
already in chat, or?
Yes, I shared on chat. If you want, I can share again.
Okay. Got
So
it.
one thing, sorry, just 1 minute. Like we are practicing, like you are explaining in the class, right? So are we also get the practical, practice for this? Like also we are getting some case studies online, like in the material, but it's like some practice we will be doing in the class, so it will be much better.
Yes, so practice will be for practicing. Mentor sessions have been created.
Okay, all right, that's
But
okay.
if there's anything you feel is not being covered, yeah, you ran out of time because mentor sessions are only for 2 hours, we can
Right.
discuss here as well.
Okay, sure.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, everyone. We can conclude now. I've shared again. So if anyone wants to download, we can.